Why do people suffer a midlife crisis? I'm Dr. Anthony Collada. I'm a board-certified psychiatrist, and I'm here to explain some possible theories about why people experience midlife crisis. And the best theories about what happens to people during different phases of their life, to me, seems from Erikson, who's a psychoanalyst that lived during the 1900s. And he basically hypothesized people go through different conflicts during different time stages or periods in their life. For example, in one's infancy, they basically are going through this conflict about can they trust their caretaker is going to give them their needs, such as like food. They successfully get through this stage of life, then they're more likely going to trust those around them, and there's a virtue that's associated with each stage, which is hope. There's also different stages that Erikson hypothesizes occurs at 18 months, at 3 years, at 5 years. Fast forwarding to teenage years, there's this notion about identity versus role confusion. And so according to Erikson, during this phase of life, people are trying to find out who they are, their identity, and if they are successfully reached this stage, or successfully pass through this stage, it's going to help them with the virtue of fidelity. It's going to help them to basically be more trustworthy, more supportive. And to me, this makes sense because in teenage years, people are easily influenced by their environment, by their relationships. And so they have to kind of be sure what their identity or what their roots are in order to help withstand some of these pressures that may be coming around them. Now, going into one's 20s, Erikson hypothesizes that this stage is one where someone is in the dilemma between being intimate with others or being isolated. And also this makes sense because people at this stage may be deciding who are they going to marry, should they marry, what career they may go into. And so a virtue when someone successfully navigates through these challenges or stages is going to be love. Now, the next stage is about the 40s where one can develop midlife crisis. But before that, Erikson's theory suggests that if one does not successfully pass through some of these stages in their life, then that conflict is not going to just go away. It's going to basically build up over time. So basically, one needs to successfully deal with sort of those issues or challenges during their life. Otherwise, it's going to build up and it's going to kind of present itself, and it might lead to mental health challenges and instability. But going into the midlife crisis area or the 40s, basically this internal struggle about being stagnant in life or generativity, which seems to me it's going to be generating for like themselves, people close to them, and for the generations to follow. According to Erikson, the virtue obtained during this time of one's life is going to be care, like care for others. And people may have a dilemma or conflict whether they're going to be a leader, they're going to be a follower, or do they just want to run away from all the responsibilities and kind of forget about it, which may happen when someone gets into this midlife crisis mode. But I think if we jump to Erikson's last stage, it'll actually help us to see how we should deal with some of these things. In the last stage, which basically one gets to the 60s, to the end of life, is going to be this notion of integrity versus despair. And so I think a lot of times what happens on this stage is people reflect on what happened in the years prior. They reflect on their accomplishments. They reflect on what's good, what's bad. And oftentimes when I see people that are older and they're depressed, they often reflect on their regrets or what they could have done differently. And they kind of mope into that aspect. But really, I think the focus here needs to be reflecting on one's accomplishments, how much they've done, the good that they've done, having that mentality throughout one's life to try to do good, to try and accomplish things, to try to help others is really going to help not only in those immediate stages, but also the stages to follow. Well, hopefully this helps to clarify some issues about midlife crisis. Be sure to like the video if you enjoyed it, subscribe to the channel to help support the channel.